Good morning, gentlemen. Mr. O'Brien. And today's presentation we called The Holocaust, the War Against the Jews. This is going to be basically from 1939 to 1945. If you read Mein Kampf, you know that Adolf Hitler had planned this for quite some time. He believed in eugenics and he believed in social Darwinism, which was that certain races were not going to be viable to keep Germany in the forefront. And so if they were not viable, there was no reason that they should exist. What is the Holocaust? Well, it is a state-sponsored persecution, and it was a very systematic destruction of the Jews, gypsies, homosexuals, and others that Hitler deemed to be unacceptable in the new Third Reich. A lot of people understand that it's not only the Jews that he persecuted. He persecuted Jehovah's Witnesses, gypsies, Poles, Russians, the mentally disabled, the physically disabled, criminally insane. He didn't object to homosexuality on a religious basis. He rejected homosexuality on the fact that it didn't produce children or workers or future soldiers. So they really didn't serve an economic purpose. Untermenschsein is a German word for the subhumans. And as you look at this photograph up on the top right, you will see that Hitler ordered the destruction of his own people. And he started with those who were absolutely criminally insane, but more importantly, the mentally retarded, the physically retarded, and those who were just not able to produce. He called this an incurable disease, and he believed that mental retardation, these young people deserved a merciful death. Now, in the German jargon, that was known as the T4 program, was his name for Tiergarten Street, which is a big factory-like building in Berlin, Germany. And this is where the headquarters was, where this program started secretly. And you better believe that the German people did not know about this. This was kept top secret for quite some time. Shoah is a Jewish word for disaster. Now, men, I find it hard to believe that the educated nation of Germany did not know that something was going on with this, because the use of propaganda and terror, and they were able to marginalize the Jewish population, and they were able to scapegoat the Jewish population. And how they did this was that they blamed the Jews for everything that had gone wrong in Germany, from the economy, right, to the loss of language. In Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler said that any country that's not united by a single language will cease to be a great country. So using half-truths, but mostly lies, Hitler was able to convince the people that Jews were not political prisoners, they were economic prisoners. But when I use the word prisoners, that's not the right term. They were economic refugees, and since they did not offer anything to the Third Reich or to the fatherland, they really didn't deserve a place on the table. And so those half-educated or angry veterans of World War I, or people who have been displaced from jobs or suffering the Depression, they truly believed that the Jews were the problem. And then xenophobia is a fear of foreigners, and that's going to be brought to a heated point in Germany. Men, we had this thing called the Crystal Night, and we'll talk about that, the Night of Broken Crystal. But also, we had this thing called the Nuremberg Laws. Now, Hitler openly praised violence against the Jews. And as we shall see, anytime a synagogue was burned down or Jews were murdered in cold blood, he applauded that. He did. And they went out of their way to falsify stories about Jewish brutality against Germans, which was mostly completely untrue. But in 1935, after Hitler's been in power for 2 years, he learns how to bring this to a fruition. He becomes chancellor in 1933, he names himself Führer, and in 1935, he passes the Nuremberg Laws. And the Nuremberg Laws were basically to strip the Jews of all their rights, their jobs in academia, Jewish judges and lawyers, German Jews that had served faithfully in World War I, and now we're hoping to be in the army, civil servants, you named it. Synagogues were openly defiled and burnt. Jewish businesses were closed and boycotted. Often they were the victim of arson. And in the right-hand corner, you see an image, which is actually a chart on how to figure out and determine who exactly a Jew is. Now, it's interesting. You could still be 132nd Jewish and still be a member of the German military, even the SS, because Hitler knew it was going to take a while to purify the blood. The Nuremberg Laws meant now the Jews have absolutely no rights, and now the Jews have become persona non gratis. You know, Hitler had the November criminals, those people that caused Germany to give up World War I, even though Germany had never been invaded or bombed. And remember, the November criminals were not just the politicians, but the November criminals were the Jews and the industrialists who helped finance the Great War. And so he had a personal vendetta against any Jewish businessmen who profited during the manufacturing of weapons during the Great War, World War I. And as you know, the only thing he hated more than Jews and communists was the Treaty of Versailles. And he blamed that also on the Jews. There it is, the night of broken crystal. Whoops, got ahead of myself there, guys. Okay, see if I can go back. Okay. Sorry about that little glitch. All right, I think we're back. Yeah, the night of broken crystal, Kristallnacht. November 9th, 1938, 267 synagogues are destroyed, 91 people are murdered, and 30,000 Jews are sent to Dachau with no trial whatsoever. Dachau is the first prison in Germany for political prisoners. Hitler will be careful to make most of his concentration camps in Poland, which will be out of the way of the common German citizen. He wanted to make sure that the Germans didn't see this going on. So he kept it very low profile and out of view. You know, the United States was one of the first countries to propose that we have a conference with 17 other nations, later it grew to 33, about what to do with all the displaced people that are leaving Europe. Guys like Albert Einstein. Sigmund Freud did not leave. As a matter of fact, he will be ransomed out by the United States, out of Austria, but his sisters will all die in the final solution. It's interesting. But a lot of the really bright people of Germany, especially the Jews, knew it was time to flee. Now, men, the United States would not take Jews. We had very tight immigration laws. And a matter of fact, it was years and years before Jews were able to migrate here. The Dominican Republic was the only country that openly dropped all its restrictions on immigration on Jews. And it was the only country of all of us that openly welcomed the Jewish refugees. Men, finally in 1933 to 1945, with great red tape and a lot of paperwork and immigration, only 132,000 Jews were permitted into the United States. Men, that's a drop in the bucket. 125,000 came to Mariel in 1980 under Jimmy Carter. It is truly a drop in the bucket. So I ask you this question. Were the Americans concerned about the economy? Were they concerned about anti-Semitic? I mean, did the American people hate the Jews? Or was it just xenophobic? I think personally, as a student of history, it was all of them. All of them. The ghettos. Now remember, in the beginning, Hitler told everyone who was Jewish to leave, get out. After that, he went into the ghettos. And the idea with ghettos were fortified cities like Poland, right? Like Warsaw, like Lodz. They built walls around the city and they piled everybody into them. They were nothing but holding cells. There was talk of taking Madagascar, that the French had lost, and making that island into a Jewish concentration camp. And if you've ever seen a map of Africa, that island is huge. But because of transportation difficulties in the war, it never happened. So Hitler stockpiled the Jews and undesirable into walled cities. And these are called ghettos. A ghetto is a Jewish word, men. And most of the people will not survive. They will starve to death from disease and just absolute loss of hope. A lot of Jews went into hiding. And a lot of Christians and others went out of their way to hide the Jews, and they knew the price. If you were caught with Jews by the Gestapo, not only were you sent to prison or killed, your entire family was killed, all your property was impounded, and you were probably going to be lined up and shot in a very short period of time, because the Gestapo or the secret police were on a constant war to find every Jew that escaped, and they did not give up. They never gave up. The Gestapo and the SS were ruthless in their searchings. This is Anne Frank. A lot of guys, a lot of my students don't know about Anne Frank. She was a German-born teenager who lived in an attic in Amsterdam and wrote her diaries. Unfortunately, she was a beautiful writer, and it's one of the best accounts of living in fear during the Holocaust. But unfortunately, men, before the war ended, she was also caught, and I'm afraid that her and her family did not survive. The Warsaw Conference, 1942. Warsaw, Berlin, is a very, very small suburb. It's kind of like saying Cutler Bay instead of Miami. Here, in a secret meeting, no messages were allowed in or out. No one was allowed to take any recordings. Hitler gave his orders that he's going to go from no longer deportation to ghettos, but now to open extermination. By 1943, Germany is losing 50,000 people a month, and Hitler wants to make sure that if he's going to go down, that he takes the Jews with him. The war against the Jews will be given top priority. Now the ghettos will be emptied into train stations, people put into boxcars, sent to special camps, mostly in Poland, where they will be gassed, worked, and exterminated. Not everybody was killed the first week. A lot of people were actually brought in as slave labor, and when they got too weak to work, then they were killed. Men, the death camps were very, very businesslike. They were absolutely, shall we say, efficient. They used every person. They knew every calorie they had to feed them until you could no longer work, and if you were very young or very old, you didn't even have a chance. You were eliminated in the first week. As you grew older and were unable to work or got weaker or lost hope, you were definitely going to be taken out, and you would not have a chance to survive. Men, contrary to popular belief, a lot of Jewish people resisted and they escaped. Many of them joined the resistance movements and lived in the forest and did everything they could to assassinate, to murder in cold blood anyone who assisted the Nazis. You could be a Jew and working for the Nazis, and you were targeted by the resistance movement. But you better believe that Hitler gave priority to hunting down these militant Jews and making sure that the SS eradicated these partisan movements. Very brave people indeed. Men, in 1944 and 45, the American Army is going to get closer and closer, including the 101st Airborne. They're going to find some of these labor camps, some of the satellite camps, and they will not believe what they see. Men, even though there have been lots of rumors, a lot of rumors about what was going on in Europe, a lot of us, including the United States, pretty much didn't give it priority. And it wasn't until the camps are actually liberated that we were able to see the entire horror of the Holocaust. I remind you of the fact that 6 million Jews died, but 12 million people died altogether in the camps. 12 million. Try to think about this. Think about going out and eliminating every man, woman, and child of 12 cities in the United States that have 1 million people. Boston, Austin, Texas, Houston, Seattle. Men, some people ask, can this ever happen again? And I tell you, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Hate is a very, very powerful political weapon. Gentlemen, looking forward to seeing you. Stay safe, and know that Columbus is thinking about you. And Adelante. Okay, Bob, how do I stop it? F10.